Hey guys, here we are on 8.6 now, solving rational equations. And really, what we've been doing the second half of this unit is working towards being able to do exactly this, solve equations. Okay, so this is going to put together all of our skills of multiplying rational expressions um, and dividing, but really multiplying, adding multiple rational expressions and or subtracting rational expressions, and we're going to put it towards actually solving for the variable now. Okay, so up top here we have two methods, and you're going to see both types of problems. The first is just proportions, and really the key here is if it is set up as a proportion, then you're able to solve by cross multiplying. Okay, and how do you know if it's a proportion? So I'm going to write that over here on the side. Um, in our little note section here, if one term on each side of equation, so if there's only one term on each side of the equation, then you can cross multiply. Okay, and that's when we would use method one. Now, if there's more than one term, okay, on each side of the equation, so problems like 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this sheet, then we're going to have to find an LCD. So in this case, we're going to multiply each side of the equation by the LCD. Okay, so this one's going to involve a little bit more work, but we'll be able to solve. All right, so first let's start with just the ones where they are proportions. So a proportion is um, two ratios equal to each other. Okay, so cross multiplication means that you can just do this times this. Okay, so it would look like this. Y times y plus 5 is equal to 3 times y plus 8. Distribute out. Okay, now you might already be seeing it, but it's clearly going to be a quadratic. Move everything over to one side. You got your quadratic, okay? And then we're going to have to use our factoring again. Thankfully, this is one that is easily factorable because a is equal to 1. So this is going to factor to y plus 6 times y minus 4 equals 0. So to solve those, you would set them both equal to 0, and you're going to get y is equal to negative 6 comma 4. Now, there is one important thing here, and that is check your solutions. When you're checking solutions, what you're looking for is to make sure that neither of solutions would be a restriction. Okay, so if you want to write a little note here, make sure solutions um, are not restrictions. So as we've been working with restrictions, remember restrictions are anything that would make your denominator equal to 0. So you want to make sure if you plug in negative 6 into y, doesn't make any denominator 0. It doesn't. And then same thing with 4. When you plug that in for y, it doesn't make a denominator equal to 0. So we're good. Okay, go ahead and try the next one on your own. And when you come back, we'll go through it. Okay, so hopefully you got through this one. You are going to have to do a little bit more factoring in this one, but same concept. So this is proportion, so I'm going to cross multiply. So 2x minus 3 quantity times x plus 4 quantity is equal to 6. Let's multiply, distribute that out. We're going to 2x squared. I'm going to combine the middle terms. It's 8x minus 3x, so plus 5x minus 12 is equal to 6. Move everything over to one side. 2x squared plus 5x minus 18 equals 0. Okay, at this point, you can factor. You could also at this point use the quadratic formula, right? Because we're actually solving here, so you could use the quadratic formula and get two answers. Or you can factor this. Either way, I'm going to do it to the side over here, factoring it. So I have here Let's see, a times c is negative 36. B is 5. So two numbers that multiply negative 36 and add to 5 are going to be positive 9, negative 4. So I'm going to draw a little box over here to use my box method. First term stays the same. Last term stays the same. Middle term of 5x gets split into the two numbers I found, 9x, negative 4x. Take the GCF of each column, take the GCF of each row. You're going to x minus 2 down this side, and you're going to get 2x plus 9 up top. So this factors to 2x plus 9 times x minus 2. Solve each of those, zero product property again, set those each equal to 0. You're going to get x is equal to negative 9 halves and 2, and those both work. Okay, and again, I'm saying they work because when you plug negative 9 halves in, it does not make the denominator, either denominator equals 0. If you plug in 2 for x, it does not make either denominator equal 0. Okay, now what happens when we have more than one term? Okay, so both of those problems we use method 1. What happens if you have more than one term? So if more than one term on either side, so it could be either or both, use LCD method. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the least common denominator of all the terms. Okay, and when you're doing this, what your goal is, rid of, it says rid, in case you can't read that, rid of all denominators. Okay, so let's look at it for number 3. We want to find the LCD of each term, so all 3 terms. Okay, so hopefully you're getting more comfortable with LCD here. We have a 3, we have an N, and we have a 6. So of the numbers 3 and 6, the least common denominator is 6. Of the variables, we just need an N. Okay, so watch what I do here. If you go back to the top here, the directions, it says multiply each side of the equation. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, right? Because we're dealing with an equation now, not just an expression, but an equation. So what I want to do here is multiply both sides by this LCD. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to multiply by 6n. Now, to make it a little less confusing for people, I'm going to do 6n over 1. Okay, and that's intentional. You don't have to write the over 1. But I'm doing that so people understand when you are multiplying each term by 6n, you're actually only multiplying the numerators, right? Because 6n is equivalent to 6n over 1, right? So like this, guys, is equal to 6n over 1. Okay, what I found over the past years is if I just write 6n, we start distributing 6n to the numerator and denominator, right? 6n is not equal to 6n over 6n, right? So I'm intentionally writing that as 6n over 1 because what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this 6n over 1 to this term and this term and this term. But it's really only multiplying by the 6n. So it would look like this. 4 times 6n. I'll write it all out for this one. Denominator is 3 times 1, so 3. Next term, 7 times 6n. Denominator stays as n because it's n times 1. Equals 1 times 6n over 6. Okay, so let's work this out. And hopefully you're seeing it. What happens here by multiplying both sides of the equation by the least common denominator, you're going to a bunch of things that cancel out. Okay, and so let's cancel out, let's reduce. We're going to have 8n minus 42 is equal to, I think I messed up here. This should be just, well, that should be a 6. Sorry. That should be, sorry, just an n. Okay. And then solve for n. So you're going to get 7n is equal to 42. So n is equal to 8. I'm sorry, 6. I was looking at the wrong thing. 6. Okay. So, apologize for that, but let's walk through again what we did. We multiplied both sides by the LCD 6n. And what ends up happening is, remember our goal is to get rid of all the denominators. Well, we did that. Okay. Everything simplified so that we got to this step right here where we no longer have any denominators, which makes it so much easier to solve. Okay, so now we got n is 6. We do a quick check. If we plug in 6 anywhere right here, right here, right here, do we get any denominators of 0? We don't. So we know that this is our answer. Okay, now try the next problem on your own. When you come back, I'll go through it. Okay, so same thing we did last time. First step would be LCD. So there's only one constant or one number, which is 2, and then we need a k. So multiply both sides by that LCD, 2k, and I'll write it 2k over 1. Okay, so this looks like this. 3 times 2k over k minus 1 times 2k over 2 equals 12 times 2k over k. And hopefully you get to the point where you don't have to do that step I just did. You'll do that kind of in your head, and you'll just go to this step, which is multiplying it out right away. All right, and then you'll see things will cancel. And we're left with 6 minus k equals 24. So negative k is equal to 18. So k is equal to negative 18. All right, double check. Make sure that negative 18 does not make any of the denominators equal 0. It does not. So there is our final answer. So hopefully you were able to work through that one. Okay, and let's step it up just slightly. One more level here. Same concept. These are just going to be a little more involved and likely a little more factoring. LCD here is going to be, we'll see this factors to p plus 2 times p minus 2. So that ends up being our LCD. So I'll multiply both sides by that. There's a p in there. All right, so we're going to get p times p plus 2 times p minus 2 divided by p minus 2 plus 2 times p plus 2 times p minus 2 over 1 equals 8 times p plus 2 p minus 2 over p plus 2 p minus 2. And I intentionally don't multiply it out right away because I know things are going to cancel. Okay, so now I'm left with, and now I'm going to go ahead and distribute this at the same time. And I'm going to multiply that out. So I'm going to have p squared plus 2p over here plus 2 times this quantity, which is p squared minus 4, is equal to 8. If you missed it, those two are equivalent. Okay, keep going here. I'm going to distribute that 2 to the p squared and to the 4. All right, and you noticed already we've gotten rid of all the denominators, which again is our goal. Let's clean it up. Let's keep going here. We're going to get 3p squared plus 2p minus 16 equals 0. Okay, it's quadratic factor or use quadratic formula. Either one is totally fine at this point. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and factor this, and I'm going to do it over here to the side. So a times c is negative 48. B is 2. So two numbers are multiplied, negative 48, and add to 2. It's going to be positive 8, negative 6. Draw my box. First and last term stay the same. Middle term is split into my two numbers that I found. Now take the GCF of each row and the GCF of each column. And I get P minus 2, 3P plus 8. All right, so this factors to P minus 2, 3P plus 8. So I'm going to get P is equal to 2, negative 8/3. Now, check your solutions. If I plug in 2, does it make any of my denominators equal 0? It does. So I'm going to cross that out. So I'm going to say makes denominator equals 0. So that's what we've been talking about as a restriction. Okay, and so we don't want to use that one. Try negative 8/3. Negative 8/3 works, so we're going to keep that one. So if you wanted to, just write it again. Your final answer is just negative 8/3. Okay, so again, we did the same process there. That one was just a little more involved because of the factoring. All right, go ahead and try the last one here on your own. You will have to do a little bit of factoring or use the quadratic. And we're back. So let us find the LCD. So this first term here, you factor out a GCF of 3, you're left with W minus 1. So LCD, we need 3 times a W minus 1. We need W minus 1, we already have it, and we needed 9, so we're actually going to change that 3 to a 9, because of 3 and 9, our least common denominator is 9. So multiply both sides of the equation by that LCD over 1, and distribute that. Okay, I know there's a lot going on here, but try to fit it all in. I'll do it in a different color. 13 times 9 times W minus 1 all over 3 times W minus 1. Notice I'm not multiplying the 13 times the 9 times the W minus 1 right now, because I want to leave it in factored form so I can cancel first before I multiply out. Okay, second term is just 9 times W minus 1. Denominator stays the same. On the other side of the equation, we'll have W times 9 times W minus 1 all over 9. Cancel out where you can. Let's see what we're left with here. We have 13 times 9 divided by 3, which is 39 minus 9 is equal to W squared minus W. So sometimes it's helpful, because you can get a little lost. You go through and just double check to make sure you didn't miss anything of what didn't get canceled out. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's keep going. It's quadratic again. Let's get everything to one side. So W squared minus W minus 30 equals 0. This one is nicely factorable to W minus 6 times W plus 5 equals 0. Set them both equal to 0 to solve. Your W is equal to 6 and negative 5. Check those into the denominators. Make sure they don't make anything equal 0. They don't. So those both work. And those two are both our solutions. Okay. So I feel like I went through that pretty quickly, but hopefully it made some sense. It's slightly different because we're not multiplying top and bottom by the same thing, but we instead are multiplying both sides of the equation by the LCD to get rid of the denominators, make it cleaner, make it easier to solve for the variable. All right, don't forget to check to make sure none of your solutions are restrictions. Otherwise, you're good to go. That's all I got for you guys today. Homework is 5 problems. Thanks.